This is, so someone may have shown up. Welcome if you're listening. We're about 16 and a half minutes into the show, and no one has said anything yet. So, okay, I'm seeing 3 people here. Welcome. 16, there's Will Powell. Hello. We're 16 and a half minutes into the show, and you're the first person to, I think you can see that yourself in the chat. You're the first person to say something, so welcome. I was going to go for 30 minutes, and if no one showed up in the chat, I was probably going to call it a day, but it looks like you showed up, so thank you very much for doing so. All right, Summerhill Cinema 700 is here. He's in the house, as it were. Thank you very much for showing up, Summerhill. I don't know if you just heard, but we're now 17 minutes into the show, and you guys are the first 2 to have said anything. I was going to go for 30 minutes, and if no one showed up, I was going to go away with my head sunken low. So if either of you guys have anything you want to ask or anything you want to talk about, feel free to do so. This is a chat-driven radio show after all. Will Powell asks, "How's life, man?" Well, it's dead of winter in Minnesota here, and it's cold. Life is cold. It's this is my least favorite time of year, but as I started the show by saying, we're almost out of January and into February, so we're kind of approaching, I don't know, inching our way out of the worst of winter, I guess. Will Powell says, same here in the UK, very cold and bleak. Exactly, my least favorite time of year, but it's, I don't know. In years past, it's been, I don't know, depending on what's going on in life and stuff, it can be bad, sometimes can be worse more than other times. So I guess to continue to elaborate on the answer to Will Powell's question, I mean, it's just in Minnesota, when you're in January and into February and stuff, it's all about trying to avoid cabin fever as best you can. And traditionally, if you watched a good number of my videos over the years, traditionally in the past, like, I don't know, 2012, 13, 14, this would be the time I'd do a lot of eBaying because there's nothing else to do. So I lay in bed with an iPad and just look for stuff on eBay, and you order something, and it's like something to look forward to, and something that's going to arrive in the mail, and it gives you a reason to keep living, like during the winter. I'm partly joking, but I don't know. Winters can be really grim in this climate, and it's just like, that whole whatchamacallit, lack of sunlight and short days and all this stuff. Will Powell says it's especially bad because this time of year I usually like to go to the cinema or escape the winter. Can't at the moment, they're all closed. Exactly. So I mean, this winter is probably just like the worst winter of everyone's lives who is currently alive. So luckily for me, as I've stated in videos and or radio shows past, I'm not huge on movies that come out these days, so I don't go to movies a lot anyway. But one thing they have been doing in a local theater of ours around here, thank you very much whoever put their thumb up for this live stream. One thing that a local theater around here, like a mom and pop theater, second run theater, has been doing is doing like showings of older movies, and of course, of course they've gone digital in years past, but they're able to acquire the digital hard drives of older movies and screen them, and that was something that was actually just really fun, and a lot of, it was gaining momentum as the months went on, and a lot of people were showing up for it, and that theater closed last March and has never opened since. I don't think they're out of business yet, but I mean, how long can they stay closed? So exactly, the worldwide sham that's going on is, I'm sure the suicide rate has gone drastically up in the last year. Very positive radio show here. I don't know if Summerhill Cinema bailed on us or what. If you're still with us, feel free to say you're still here, or, you know, say something. You don't have to, of course. And I'm seeing 4 people in the live stream right now. Hello, welcome. The first 16 or 15 minutes of this live stream, 2 thumbs up. Thank you very much. Was very lonely. Where it was an all-time record of people, you know, not saying anything in the chat. It took like 15, I think, and a half minutes or something, or 16 minutes or something for someone to say something in the chat. So I was going to go for 30 minutes, and if no one showed up, I was going to, like I say, what's that? Slither away, defeated. Will Powell says, yeah, there was a short period when they opened up again in the summer, and I took myself to see Jurassic Park and Empire Strikes Back re-release. That was cool. 2 of my favorite movies. Yeah, I think you mentioned that last week, and then in response to that, I said they played those at the drive-in. I think it was Jaws and Jurassic Park double feature at the drive-in, which was just really fun. Well, I'm just gonna say, I don't know, it's DAV Caligari. Says good afternoon. Hello. Did you just come out of your cabinet? I didn't mean to be. I'm assuming that's like the character from the cabinet of Dr. Caligari or something. I don't think I'm not too familiar with the movie, so I don't know if DAV is that character. But thank you very much for showing up and saying something in the chat. He says, yes, okay, very cool. I'm obviously familiar with the movie, just not, or I know about the movie, but I'm not very familiar with the movie. Thank you for showing up. I don't think I've seen you in the radio show yet, so welcome. Chat's pretty slow at this point, so if anyone wants to bring up topics or whatever, feel free to do so. As I keep on saying, this radio show is mostly a chat-driven situation where I like to interact with people in the chat. I'm not one of these people that really feels the need to just sit down here. I did everything I had to say, I said at the beginning of the show when no one was here. So if anyone wants to listen to that, like news item updates and stuff, they can do so after the show or whatever. But I basically, you know, started the show by mentioning like 4 Blu-ray titles that are set to come out within the next coming months and stuff. So I guess I can, since we've actually got people here, I can name them off. It's Grizzly and Day of the Animals are going to come out on Severin Blu-ray in April. The movie from 1984 with James Garner that I'm a big fan of by the name of Tank comes out on Kino Lorber Blu-ray in, I think, May 11th. And then Career Opportunities is scheduled to come out on Blu-ray via Kino Lorber sometime in June. There's no day set, they're just saying June at this point. So those are the news items that I started the show with, where I was just basically talking to nobody, but after the fact. More people are going to probably listen to this after the fact, obviously, than are listening to it live. So those people are going to hear that at the beginning of the show. Will Powell, if you're still here, did you happen to see Jurassic Park? I don't know when it was. Was it 2011 or 2012 when they did the 3D conversion of it? Did you happen to go see that in the movie theater? That was kind of cool. I mean, it was kind of cool, but it's like it almost seemed like the sound was better when it came out in '93. I was surprised at the sound, but of course, we're so used to movies being loud and stuff by then that maybe I was just spoiled by the sound, because Jurassic Park in '93 was like one of the first movies that's had that kind of sound, so it was like a big deal. Will Powell asks, have you got a favorite album, Nate? Mine is the Beatles' White Album. Not sure if you want to talk about music as well. Yeah, this is a movie channel, but obviously we can talk about anything. Will Powell, if you guys don't know, I mean, is a big music guy and a musician, so this question obviously makes sense. I don't, I guess in my advanced age, I'm not so much. I don't think about this so much, but for a long time, Bad Religion was my favorite band, and I think for me, the Process of Belief is probably my favorite Bad Religion album. So I guess that would be my first, one of them. I also like the Rancid album that came out in 2000, which I call Rancid 2000 because it's self-titled. So, I mean, they've got two self-titles. They're self-titled, their first one, and then Rancid, which came out in 2000. So I really like Process of Belief by Bad Religion and Rancid 2000. Will Powell, in answering my question about Jurassic Park 3D, says, no, I didn't actually. That would have been great. Not sure if that was available in UK cinemas. Oh, that's a good question. Will Powell, if anyone is interested, is in the UK. So I very well may have not been in UK cinemas. I guess I'm not thinking on a global scale. Dave, we'll just call you Dr. Caligari. Next month, Runaway Train comes out from Kino Lorber. Very cool. I remember seeing that when I was my dad and I rented that in the 80s when I was a kid and probably too young before I started watching horror movies and stuff. And I can remember there was I don't know, something to do with a broken finger, or someone got something broke in some fight in that movie early on, and that kind of scared me, to put me off to that movie. And it's like I've never seen it since, and I kind of feel like I should see it again and see what it's like as an adult. And I'm sure that scene is nowhere near as bad as I thought it was as a impressionable young kid. I mean, I don't know if I was 8 or 9 when we rented that, and something happened early on, or just seems like some prison fight or something where someone's hand or finger or something got broke, and it's just like that kind of made me squeamish. Yeah, Will Powell says punk rock fan. Nice. Yeah, I pretty much just liked music scores and classical music and big band stuff until I was in my early 20s, and then I'm like, God, if I want to have any friends or a girlfriend or anything, I have to pick some kind of popular music. And I ended up coming across a friend of mine, well, we'll call him an acquaintance, had the Offspring album Americana in 1999, and I borrowed that from him. And that album was because punk rock was never really very big in mainstream, and that album started my love affair, which still is ongoing, with punk rock. And I got all the Offspring albums, of course, and well, that was way back in '99. So I mean, yeah, the Americana Offspring album started my love affair with punk rock. We'll just call him Dr. Caligari, said someone was stabbed. Was it a prison scene? Summerhill Cinema 700 says, I'm back. My computer froze twice, then shut off. Oh, I'm sorry about that. I don't want to destroy your computer with Huge Movie Fanatics Radio. I hope the show doesn't ruin your computer. But yes, Will Powell, punk rock fan. Yeah, for a long time. I guess Process of Belief was my first Bad Religion album. I got it not long after it came out in '02. And I'd say sometime between '02, '03 until, I don't know, when I stopped really caring about, I mean, it's not like I don't care about music, but from '03, I'd say, until maybe 2014 or 15 or something, Bad Religion was my favorite band. I mean, I still like them a lot, but I mean, I guess I've gone past the phase where it's I feel like I have to, where I don't care enough to say, oh, anything's my favorite anymore. In regards to music, I do it with movies. Well, yeah, I kind of do it with movies, but in regards to music, it's I don't think I feel like I need to have a favorite band. Summerhill Cinema 700 says, yeah, too many frequencies. Yes, my voice is so frequenced that it crashes computers. I'm glad to see you back. I was wondering what was going on. Like you showed up and then I didn't see anything from you in chat, Summerhill, and I'm like, uh-oh, did I offend him? But I'd say punk rock is probably my favorite popular music genre. Then for a while I got into metal, but that didn't last incredibly long. I still like punk rock. I just like the fastness, and it's just a bummer because I totally would have been into it a lot sooner had I known anything about it, but it wasn't, never been very much in the mainstream. I mean, I guess it, the late 90s with things like Americana and Enema of the State and stuff with Blink and Offspring, I guess it kind of became, that was probably when punk rock was really reaching the mainstream the most. Yes, my Summerhill, my intellect, my knowledgeable intellect crashes computers. For anyone who's listening or perhaps listening after the fact or listening live, feel free to, or be sure to go over and check out Summerhill Cinema's 700's channel. He reviews movies and stuff on his own. He just last week, I think it was basically exactly a week ago today, watched for the first time, I believe, Shockwaves, and from what I understand, enjoyed it quite a bit, and I'm glad. Because from what I understand, he blind bought the DVD, or the Blu-ray rather, and I think he liked it quite a bit, which I do as well. That's a fun Nazi zombie movie. Will Powell says, not a popular opinion, but I've always preferred the first Terminator to Terminator 2. As great as Terminator 2 is, I feel the first Terminator has a dark horror edge, slightly terrifying. Yeah, I saw Terminator for the first time when I was probably too young, around the same time I saw Runaway, or part of Runaway Train. And it was before I got into horror movies and stuff, so I was still squeamish, probably when I was 9 or 10. I mean, that's kind of young anyway. And I'd seen this trailer for the movie, which I plan to review someday, Eliminators, the Charles Band ripoff of Terminators, and that looked cool to me. And I was hoping Terminator was Eliminators. I couldn't. I don't even know where I would have saw the trailer for Eliminators in the '80s, but it must have been on another VHS tape. And as the movie if Terminator kept going on and on, I was like, and he became more skeleton. I'm like, I was waiting for the tank tracks. If anyone knows anything about Eliminators, this cyborg guy ends up, he's got tank tracks and stuff that he can hook himself into and stuff and drive around, and really cool movie. And I was just watching Terminator, waiting for him to get his tank tracks, and of course that never happened. But Terminator was a little much for me at that age, and I agree. I think, I guess what I could say regarding Terminator 1 and 2 is maybe maybe they're equals in their own way. They're like equal, like you say, the Terminator, because it's like the majority of it is like pretty much at night, and it definitely does have like it almost is like its own genre of like sci-fi horror, or horror sci-fi or something. It's really, it does have it's action / sci-fi / horror, and those genres could go in any order regarding Terminator. So I agree. It's almost like, even though it's like, budget wise and technically wise, maybe the lesser of the two movies, there's something about Terminator that, I mean, obviously they were trying to go mainstream with Terminator 2, but there's something about Terminator that is much more dark and serious and sinister than Terminator 2. I mean, let's face it, Terminator 2 is, like a popcorn movie. I mean, I guess kind of. So I agree with you. I mean, that Terminator, there's something about that Terminator 2, didn't match. But and like I say, I think they were going for more mainstream with Terminator 2. Summerhill Cinema 700 says, thanks, Nate. Yeah, Shockwaves was fun. Yep, and if, you know, on any winter day, if you're ever too cold or whatever, it's definitely a good movie to watch. As I said, tropical zombie Nazi movie fun. Will Powell says, Americana is an album I had actually. I used to listen to that while I played Grand Theft Auto on PS1. Good times. He also says, Terminator 1 also feels like a John Carpenter movie. Yeah, when I borrowed Americana from my acquaintance, I was like, wow, you know, this is freaking great. I love this. And it wasn't long after I bought, you know, Ixnay, however the hell you say it, Ixnay and the Hombre, which is my favorite Offspring album. And that, to me, that would also be one of my probably favorite albums. You know, that's been, yeah. And you know what else I really liked? I discovered in 1999 was the first Third Eye Blind album. I think the first you can just call it self-titled probably. The first Third Eye Blind album to me is beyond classic as well. And you know, you're talking about like PS1, Americana, and old video games. I'm just flashing back to the old days. Summerhill Cinema says, Terminator Dark Fate was the last new release I saw in the theater before the world went to crap. Not a lot of great movies lately, but I still miss the theaters. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, it's almost like even if movies suck, there's still something kind of fun about going to see these sucky movies in the theater with big screen and big sound. You know, they can suck on a big level. In regards to Will Powell saying Terminator 1 almost feels like a John Carpenter movie, I guess the more I think about that, maybe to a certain extent, maybe like the Brad Fiedel electronic music kind of, you know, can make it feel like that. And I guess I don't really know how else it would feel like a John Carpenter movie. But mostly for me, it would be, if you were to compare it with the John Carpenter movie, it'd mostly be because of the music. I mean, I think James Cameron's a lot better at action than John Carpenter could ever hope to be. Yeah, so I never talked about Terminator Dark Fate. I did end up blind buying the Blu-ray when it came down to a reasonable price, and I think it's better than I'd rather watch it than Genesis, I think, and Salvation. But obviously, you know, I mean, to be honest, I think the action, even though it's like mostly CG action, I think was pretty good, and I like that they freaking went back to R-rated. I can't remember. I don't think Genesis was unrated. Was the Dark Fate the first unrated Terminator since Part 3? But I don't know. Dark Fate wasn't horrible. I'd prefer that over, as I already said, what we call Genesis and Salvation. Caligari asks, watching any streaming? You know, on Prime, they've got for free, if you're a member of Prime. My mom's a member, so I get to use her Prime. You know, they've got, I never actually saw Star Trek Voyager, so I've been watching, and I never saw much of Deep Space Nine and any of Voyager, so I've actually been watching Deep Space Nine and Voyager on Amazon Prime. That's about it. I mean, I'll stream a movie here and there, but nothing of anything that's amazing. You know, Deep Space Nine to me, like the first 2 seasons were almost unbearable, and like I'm currently on the 3rd season, and 3rd season really is so much better than seasons 1 and 2. And in my opinion, Star Trek Voyager, the series, I just started the series just recently, and that show for me is just like good from the first episode. But I mean, it took like the first two seasons, in my opinion, of DS9 was almost unwatchable. I mean, it was really bad. Will Powell says, I think because it's shot a lot like Escape from New York. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, very film noir. Yeah, I can see you there. Like, I think, well, because Escape from New York only takes place in over a certain period of time, like linear period of time or whatever, that whole movie's at night. So I understand. Now I understand what you're coming from, because, Terminator is so much at night, and I can get behind you on that. That's understandable if you compare it to that. Summerhill Cinema says, I agree, Dark Fate was not as bad as some people make it out to be. Not great, but not terrible. Yeah, so many people out there are, they complain so much about the, the whatever, the PC culture, or the whatever the hell's going on in movies. And agreeably, it's happening. It's not something that's not there, but the whole man hating and woman loving kind of stuff. But I mean, you don't have to. I mean, even though they kind of shove it down your throat, if you just kind of pretend to be oblivious to that and try to just watch it, I mean, it's kind of hard to, especially with that main character who looks with that short hair, and she looks all the boyish female, and it's hard to. But I don't know, seeing Linda Hamilton back as Sarah Connor kind of made up for it, even though it's like, give me a break. Part of it was fun and nostalgic. So yeah, I mean, Dark Fate is like, there's good things about it and bad things. Like, I was surprised. Like, I thought the action scenes were pretty good for the most part. And it was really cool, even though I don't like the bad guy Terminator. I think he's just kind of a boring thing. The idea of like the endoskeleton that can separate from the liquid was kind of cool, and seeing him just slice and dice people R-rated finally again was cool. So there's definitely things about Terminator Dark Fate. I should probably review the movie this year, but there's things that are definitely good, but then there's a lot that's not. To be honest, I thought, having Arnold be, just like a frickin' whatever the hell he was, he made shade drapes or some stupid boring trade, I thought was kind of funny. So I mean, there's there's a lot to not like, but there's some stuff to like, I guess. Will Powell says, the last movie I saw at the cinema before what I call this supposed broke out was the Sonic the Hedgehog before times. Ha ha ha. Oh, right. The the before times. I understand that. Yeah, I call it supposed. It's this thing that's supposedly so dangerous. Summerhill Cinema says, I can't stand that. That's what they do with the new Star Wars films and the last Mad Max. Too political, in my opinion. Keep politics out of cinema. Right. That's, as much as I tried to say watch Dark Fate and ignore it, the more I was saying that, the more I was realizing, because I was picturing that character, that manly female character with the short hair, and I was like, God, it's almost, it's not that easy to ignore, really. And I agree. I blind bought because I thought it, maybe it was worth $10. The abysmal, and maybe I'll review it this year, the most recent Black Christmas. And I was, I knew going into it that it was, probably one of the most heavily man-hating and girl power movies out there. But I guess I didn't quite understand how much so it was. So, yeah, I mean, that's why, to me personally, I'm not too devastated by the closure of movie theaters, because if this is the stuff they're going to be showing in movie theaters, I mean, you might as well keep them closed, in my opinion. But I mean, I understand you guys who, miss going to movie theaters, definitely. But that's just my personal take on it. Like, if this is the kind of stuff you're going to be showing us, where it's like agenda and you're trying to shove it down our throats, you can just forget about it. Will Powell says the new Star Wars movies are terrible. Yeah, and for the record, I never reviewed anything past The Force Awakens because I just hated The Force Awakens so much. But for the record, I did like my most favorite of the last trilogy was The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi I thought was the best of the three, and it's so funny because I think it's the one that's hated the most. But I think it was the best of the Star Wars sequels personally. And I guess maybe that's because Luke Skywalker had was the movie with where he had the biggest role in seeing Yoda and stuff back. For me, it's just out of the new ones, Last Jedi felt most like a Star Wars movie. And I don't care about that shit of, I'm not so much of a geek where it's like, oh, Luke wouldn't do that. Luke wouldn't. I liked it. I liked the dark Luke who gave up because, bad things that happen to you and having a life of hell can make you give up. So, there's some people that said Luke wouldn't give up or Luke wouldn't end up like that. I mean, I thought maybe that's true, but for me, I thought it was an interesting character study of what could have happened to Luke, and I was fine with The Last Jedi. I thought it was the best of the sequels, as I've already said, and that scene where, the hero chick, the stupid, I can't even, is it Rey and the I can't even remember the bad guy's name, but when they joined forces and killed the supreme leader Snoke or whatever, I thought that scene was really cool, and obviously the mirroring of the AT-AT scene from Empire at the end of it, and I just think Last Jedi was the best of the Star Wars sequels personally. But for me, the Force Awakens is probably the worst because it's basically a remake of Episode 4. And I think the whatever the last one was called was probably my second favorite. What was the last one called? Rise of Skywalker. So yeah, this girl, and that goes into the whole whatever you feel like you are culture too with the Rise of Skywalker. Like I feel like, out of all the characters I've met in my travels, I identify most with Luke or the Skywalker family. So I'm going to just call myself a Skywalker, even though I'm a whatever the hell that name is, or the bad guy or whatever. And it's just like, what a joke. But another thing I liked about Rise of Skywalker, even though it makes no sense and was a complete cheat, is seeing the Emperor guy back. The guy who plays him, and then seeing him back was just like, even though it was just a joke to have that character come back, at the same time, it was cool to see that actor back in the role again. And what they did with his voice was just like, oh man, freaking cool, even though I don't agree with bringing the character back. I thought what they did with him by having his eyes like white and oh my God, that was cool. Will Powell says, fair enough on The Last Jedi. I absolutely hated it, to be honest, but to each their own, man. That's cool. I realize we all, we all have our own tastes and stuff. I just don't understand the hate for it, but, we all have our own tastes. I mean, obviously, I complain about Force Awakens being a remake of Episode 4. Last Jedi is more or less a remake of, Empire Strikes Back, and Luke, is the Yoda character, but I still just think it was, in my opinion, it was the best of the sequels. I don't know if it was mainly because of Mark Hamill was in it so much. I don't know what it was. Pardon me. But we don't have to like the same things. We are just past 51 minutes into the radio show this week. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And participating in the chat. As I've already said, it took like a record 16 minutes for someone, the first words to be said in the chat, which was kind of, I was like, what am I going to do? Go 30 minutes and not have anyone show up? And oh man, that would have been a bummer. So I was kind of worried there. So I'm glad people showed up and are chatting in the chat. It looks like we've got our third thumbs up. Thank you very much. But I'm seeing 7 people here. If anyone wants to bring up a topic, ask a question, feel free to do so. Will Powell says, something feels organic about the original movies, solid chemistry and natural humor. To me, the new Star Wars feels very forced. Well, in my opinion, I agree 100% with that. In my opinion, movies in general have just gone to crap. And since, or movies now, you know, or recent times have gone to crap. And since the new Star Wars movies were made in recent times, it's inevitable they're going to be crap. Not to say everything is crap that comes out now. Like I actually thought Knives Out, while I haven't said anything about it on my channel, I actually thought Knives Out was pretty good. And it seems to me that there was another movie that I thought was really cool that I've been meaning to review, and I'll probably do it this year, was Gretel and Hansel. I thought was actually pretty cool for being made now. So, I mean, there are movies, few and far between, that I think that are actually good, that squeeze through the cracks, but I think for the most part, everything coming out now, in my opinion anyway, is crap. And it's so much of it is just so much about agenda, forcing agenda and these new radical ideologies into them. And basically media is how they program everyone. And it's just, it's encouraging that so many people are like seeing the, you know, the agendas and stuff that they're pushing in media now and don't like it, because it shows that people actually have their own brains and realize that, you know, what they're putting in these movies and TV shows now is just poison, you know, shit. Summerhill Cinema says, any movies that you would like to see get a Blu-ray reviews that haven't already? I'd have to go grab the list. I've got a list. Maybe I'll go grab it. Looks like Wade Wilson showed up. Thank you welcome. Thank you for showing up. Gary Page showed up. Wade and Gary are late. We're like 30 or 53 minutes into the show, but thank you very much for showing up. Let me go quick grab my list, Summerhill, before your question gets buried in the comments, and I'll answer your questions. Okay, I've got a list here for movies that I would like to see on Blu-ray that, as far as I know, are not on Blu-ray. Right now, what I got on my list here is Scream Bloody Murder. I don't know if anyone's seen that movie, but it's a classic B-grade schlock movie from the 70s. Obviously, I reviewed the movie The Demon recently from 1979. Obviously, I love like an Arrow Video version of The Demon on Blu-ray. It seems to me there might be a new scan of this movie on DVD, but I don't know if it's on Blu-ray. The classic movie from the 70s, Silent Night, Bloody Night. It'd be nice to have on a Blu-ray. And of course, a lot of people want this on Blu-ray. King Kong 1976. And then while I'm at it, I put, why not? King Kong Lives. So those are the titles that I have on a list for my next video of movies that I want, or long overdue for Blu-ray release. I mean, obviously also like The Abyss and True Lies. I mean, let's face it. But those are the only ones I can think of at the top of my head. Any titles you want that aren't on Blu-ray? Wade Wilson says, just added Night of the Demons in my Laserdisc collection, and I already own the Arrow or Scream Factory Blu-ray that was released in 2018. Do you like Night of the Demons? I'm trying to... Is that the one with the? I'm just trying to think right now. That's the one with Linnea Quigley and the lipstick, right? I'm more of a fan of the sequel to Night of the Demons more so than the first one. So, but I don't hate the first one, but I like the sequel more. Gary Page says, "Hi, Nate. I promise I won't mention Friday the 13th tonight." You just did, man. Just kidding. Summerhill Cinema 700 says, "Cool." I'm kind of behind on chat here, so I'm assuming you're referring to my list of movies that I listed off. Wade Wilson says, "I'd like to see The Kindred, Night Flyers, and Nightlife get Blu-ray releases because they're all obscure 80s horror movies." Good list. Wade Wilson says, "All three of those movies I own on Laserdisc." Dr. Caligari says, "I find a lot of the movie you review on BitChute." Oh, okay, that's cool. You can watch a lot of the movies I talk about on that site. Summerhill Cinema says, "Yeah, King Kong 76 is on the top of my list. Also, Alligator 1980. Thanks for listening, Nate. Very cool." Yeah, let's get King Kong 76 on Blu-ray, especially since the movie, which, to be honest, I'm not really interested in seeing, is going to be coming out, Godzilla versus Kong. Be a perfect time to get King Kong 76 on Blu-ray. And like while you're at it, like I say, put out King Kong Lives as well. Will Powell says, "Yeah, feminist agenda just seems very nasty. Sarah Connor was a great character, and Ripley because they actually felt like characters regardless of their gender, not just forced in." Yeah, everything now in movies just seems forced, and it's just fake and forced. Because back in the 80s, and I would imagine even, decades before that, I mean, exactly, you'd have a woman character who was a badass, but I mean, you didn't think about it. It's not like, well, as a kid or a teenager, I didn't think about it. Oh, it's this woman. Look, women can do stuff too. It's like we never said they couldn't. So it's just such a joke what's going on now. Gary Page says, "The Spanish Blu-ray of True Lies looks good." Interesting. So what region is that then? So True Lies is on Blu-ray, just not officially in the United States. That's interesting. Huh. I guess I didn't even know it was out on Blu-ray at all. Wade Wilson says, "What is your opinion of the new Star Wars movie?" Shoot, we were just talking about that before you probably showed up. Do you like them or dislike them? I'm not a big fan of them, but I know they have their audience. I don't want to trash them because I know people like them. We were just talking about them probably before you showed up. Obviously, for me, the Star Wars sequels, which is episodes 7, 8, and 9 or whatever, are mostly crap. My favorite is The Last Jedi, because it just feels like, I guess I just like having Luke in it. It just feels like the most Star Wars movie out of all of them. To me, out of all three of the new ones, Last Jedi, I just like the best. I just like it. But for the most part, the new Star Wars movies I don't like overall. But if I had to watch one, I'd watch Last Jedi. And I was also saying recently that, although it was stupid that Palpatine was brought back for the Rise of Skywalker, at the same time, it was so cool to see him, that actor portraying that role again, and with the white eyes and having them all decayed, was just, in the voice, was just awesome. As much as it was lame that the character was brought back. So it's so funny how, like, I personally wasn't a big fan of the prequels when they came out, and now the sequels make the prequels almost look good. Or, that's that just shows how, movies, in my opinion, just deteriorate as time goes on. Because when we thought the prequels were bad, it's like that's nothing compared to the sequels. Gary Page says, "True Lies, Spanish Blu-ray region free." Well, damn, that might be something worth looking into, because I don't think they're ever going to put it out officially in this country. I mean, Wade Wilson says, "I own the Star Wars trilogy on Laserdisc with original effects." Yeah, this is something that I should probably showcase this year when I start shooting videos again, is I've got, I don't know if you're referring to, well, there's been several versions of them out, you know, pre-special edition on Laserdisc, but I've got the, I was disappointed to look up on eBay how much it's not even worth anything, but the super duper CAV, I don't even know what they called it, you know, trilogy collection, it was probably like $300 or something, or $350 when it came out. I've got that. And I was really disappointed to find out that it's like, I don't know what the hell it's going for on eBay, $100 or less or something. I'm like, God, you'd think that would be worth more than that. But yeah, I've got that super duper Star Wars at the time. Was it called the Definitive Collection or something? I got that way back in the 90s after I got a Laserdisc player. Summerhill Cinema said, movies should be creative so the viewer can form their own opinion rather than have one shoved down their throat. Exactly. That's what movies have become, is, you know, ideology programming devices. I mean, granted, they're probably kind of that way for the whole time, but they're just becoming much more blatant. Will Powell says, got to go for a bit, but to reference Terminator again, I'll be back, hopefully before the end of the show. Got to take the dog for a walk. Yeah, we're an hour into it. I can only imagine if people stick around, we'll probably maybe do this for at least another hour. We'll just see how the participation is. So I hope to see you back today. If not, there's always probably next week. So be careful with that walk and be good to get some fresh air. Summerhill Cinema says, I find the special editions unwatchable with the added CGI. Yeah, it's a real bummer that you know, the originals don't get any love, and it's just like, if they got a decent treatment on Blu-ray, those would sell like so crazy. For me, the special editions aren't unwatchable, but I definitely prefer the option to have the originals on Blu-ray. Wade Wilson says, do you watch Laserdisc on big TVs? I watch Laserdisc on a 65-inch 4K TCL TV with my dad, and in my room I watch on a 22-inch AOC LCD TV that came out in 2008. I don't even know the size of my TV. I don't know if it's a 40-inch or 45-inch. I mean, I actually don't really watch Laserdisc. If I do, I watch Laserdisc that I put onto DVD. So I don't really necessarily use the Laserdisc player much, but I have just connected it to the whatever the hell it is. I think it's a 45-inch, pardon me, TV I've got. So I just watch it on that. And obviously, if a movie is widescreen or whatever, I do the zoom thing, you know, to get rid of the bars if it's 185, or to minimize the bars if it's a wider movie. But I don't watch Laserdisc very often. I have. Dr. Caligari says, I only have the radio drama of Star Wars. Well, that's cool. Gary Page says, George Lucas, why did he keep tinkering with Star Wars? Well, money. I mean, you keep re-releasing the same movies with changes, and you can keep making money off the same movie. And I don't know. That was just a joke when that happened. I mean, I wasn't so much against it then. It was kind of like when they came out in the late 90s, the special editions, it was kind of like, at the time, it was like, ooh. And to be able to see them in the theater was cool. But, you know, obviously as time went on, it's like, oh my God. You know, to me, I have no problem with tinkering with the originals, but much with my point of view in regards to original mono and stuff, like, if you're going to change something, you gotta, in my opinion, you gotta have the original available as well. And, you know, in some kind of decent quality. But that's my opinion. So I'm not so much against changes, but have the original available in decent quality as well. Don't, you know, call the original some kind of archaic. Don't leave it behind. And I think, not that I'm the biggest Spielberg guy anymore, but I think for a while there in the early 2000s, Spielberg was getting on to that, changing ET and stuff. But then not long after, he went back to like, you know what, forget it. And I don't think you can even get the special edition of ET on Blu-ray. So he kind of went away from that changing stuff with the computer and just keeping stuff pure how it originally was. So I definitely side more with that mindset than this, visual, using digital technology to change, quote unquote, change and enhance older movies. Wade Wilson says, we do the same. I guess I don't even know what you're referring to, unfortunately. Oh, talking about we zoom in on widescreen laserdisc. Okay. Right. You got the zoom feature and might as well use it. Wade Wilson says, it's always about money. You got that right. Summerhill Cinema says, at least George Lucas isn't a big Hollywood guy, which is nice. He doesn't like the award shows. Yeah, that's one thing I'll give him. Like if I was a movie guy for real, you wouldn't see me at one award show. You can take your award shows and stick them up or they can take their award shows and stick them up their Oscars. Wade Wilson says, my dad spotted something special in Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Laserdisc. I showed him yesterday. I'm afraid to say what it is because if I do, then the entire internet will know. Oh man, it's a tough decision because as we all know, the entire internet is here. That's why there's only 6 people in the live stream. It's up to you if you want to mention it and end the world. Summerhill Cinema says The Warriors is another good example of tinkering with a movie when they added those comic strips to the film. At least have the theatrical cut easily available. Yeah, I'm not familiar with. I'm assuming you're talking about the movie The Warriors. I'm not familiar with the movie whatsoever or the problem which you've just stated. But it sounds like it's just weird that they tinker with that movie. Wade Wilson says, if I mention it on here, will people keep it a secret so it doesn't spread like the deadly cold and flu? I kind of changed his comment, but I can't promise anything, I can't promise anything. The 6 people here might just spread it. It's up to you, though. No pressure. So I'm curious though, this Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Laserdisc, was it the full frame? Did you see something on the top or bottom because that wasn't matted with the widescreen? Is that what you're referring to? Like, because back in the old days, if a movie was 185, like with Child's Play 2, if you watch the full screen version, you can see like when Chucky slams the door towards the end of the movie on that, so that one girl can't get out. You can see the mechanics on the bottom of the screen that you're not supposed to see in the 185 matted version. Wade Wilson says the actress that plays Kristen in Nightmare on Elm Street 4 accidentally shows some bush because she wasn't wearing panties. See, now, is that because it's the one spot of the screen that's supposed to be cut off with the 185 matte? Or is it on the Blu-ray as well? Wade Wilson says, my dad spotted it and no one else has spotted this. Well, we can see what your dad watches those movies for. Just kidding. Gary Page says, ha, 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 ha. I'm assuming and responding to Wade Wilson's and his dad's discovery. Wade Wilson says it shows this on the VHS too, but the VHS is piss poor quality. And Wade Wilson says, yeah, that's the reason, because with the theatrical 185 crop, it would probably not be there. Wade Wilson says it's not on the DVD, so probably not Blu-ray, right? Yeah, a lot of things that, like I mentioned with the Child's Play 2 thing, those kind of things happen. And same thing with like the movie Short Circuit, like, because that was shot in that goofy ass like Super 35, where it's like in the theater, it's wide like a Panavision movie, But on home video, you see more on the top and the bottom. So when Johnny Five is reflecting bullets with the car disc brakes or whatever, like you can see a moment where the rod that's going into the bottom of his elbow comes into screen. So like the whole time that was on home video until I got the widescreen Blu-ray, that's what you'd see. So that's a common occurrence with the movies that were 185 and matted for the theater. Then you got to see things that a lot of times you weren't supposed to see. I don't know why she wasn't wearing underwear when they filmed it though. Wade Wilson says, you guys can share this info with your friends. I just don't want the actress to be upset if people learn this on the internet. That's why I don't want it to spread. Okay, my lips are sealed. I mean, if she doesn't want to be upset about it, she should wear underwear to the film set. That would solve the problem. I can just see Wade's dad. Can we watch Nightmare on Elm Street 4 again? I like that movie. Wade Wilson says it's after Kincaid's death scene. I know what I'm watching tonight, just kidding. That's when you can see some bush. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for letting us know. C-Snap showed up. Just to let you know, we're an hour and 13 minutes into the show. C-Snap says, hey guys, greetings from Dublin. Welcome. I'm starting to think my start time might be a little too soon because the first 16 minutes or so, no one said anything in the chat. So maybe I should start an hour later, possibly. Wade Wilson says they left it in the digitally remastered VHS from 1999, but the VHS is not as good as the Laserdisc release from 1990. That makes sense. C-Snap says, hey, Nate. So what do you guys think about the start time? Do you think it's, an hour too early because no one showed up for the first 16 minutes? Should I start like an hour later? Or I guess I can just talk to myself for the first 16 minutes or whatever. It doesn't really... Pardon me. Summerhill Cinema says, anyone heard about the upcoming Toxic Avenger movie? I can honestly say I have not. And just by chance, I recently watched the original not so long ago, and that was a blast from the past. The sound effects in that movie are like so fun. They're like just the video game sound effects for, whipping nunchucks and punches and stuff. God, those movies were trash, but I mean, it's kind of fun trash. So, what can you tell us about the upcoming Toxic Avenger movie? Is that something like supposed to be in the theater? Not that there's theaters open, but anyway, is there any info you can give us on it? Is it like Lloyd Kaufman have anything to do with it? Wade Wilson says, I forgot this was today and I just showed up when I seen you were streaming. Okay, well, that makes sense. Just to let everyone know, once again, that the plan is for the winter months anyway. Every Thursday, starting at 1 p.m. Central Time, the plan is to do a huge Movie Fanatics radio live stream starting at 1 p.m. And last week we went for almost 3 hours. So, if participation is high and strong, we just go until it dwindles out or until I get sick of this. And I was just commenting, this is the 4th edition of the show, and it was an all-time record. Took 16 minutes for someone to say the first thing in chat, so I was a little worried that I was just going to go 30 minutes, and if no one showed up, I was going to leave. So that's why I asked about the the starting time. Is it perhaps too early, the 1 p.m. Central? So I was trying to get feedback. C-Snap says, here's one for you. What do you guys think of Dead and Buried? I love it myself. I'm afraid I haven't seen it. I mean, I can't see everything. I'm afraid to say I haven't seen Dead and Buried. What year was that from? And Wade Wilson says, speaking of trauma movies, I recently bought Rabid Grannies on Laserdisc, but it has Laserdisc rot, so I was refunded by seller. Well, that's a bummer, but at least you were refunded. So when you're refunded, does that mean you get to keep it and get refunded? C-Snap says, oh man, watch Dead and Buried, 1981. Well, that's definitely one to put on the list. Wow, I'm seeing a number 9 for the, oh, it just went down to 8. We had a record 9 people. Granted, I don't watch the counter the whole time, but the 9 was the most people I've ever seen on the counter for a live stream here so far. Yeah, I think I can recount or recall the cover for Dead and Buried. And 81 makes me interested because that was a great year. Late 70s, early 80s, man. I'm all about that. Wade Wilson says, I seen Dead and Buried, and it's a pretty good movie. That's the one with Robert Englund, I believe. Gary Page says, sorry, Nate, I was late because I'm a lazy bastard. That's fine. People have other lives, you know, regarding instead, yeah, people have their own lives. It's not, people don't live for this weekly radio show, as can be evidenced by the people who show up here. Will Powell says, I'm back. That was a quick walk. You call them walkies? You say it's time to go for a walkies? That's like the Wallace and Gromit guy. Do you say that when your dog sees you with the leash? Walkies, walkies, time for walkies? Or is that just like is that a cliched thing that doesn't really happen over there? Wade Wilson says, yeah, he let me keep the Laserdisc that is defective. Well, that's cool. Way back when I ordered a VHS off eBay or something, I think it was Don't Go in the House, the original media VHS release, and it was wasn't even that bad, but it was kind of bad, and I mentioned it, and he refunded me too. Summerhill Cinema says, I don't think Lloyd Kaufman is involved, but has approved the new movie, and Peter Dinklage is in the movie. I guess I don't, the name is kind of looks familiar, but I guess I don't really know who that is. C-Snap said, yes, Robert Englund is in it, referring to Dead and Buried. One of the greatest syringe eyeball moments. Oh, gosh. Gary Page says, Dead and Buried, really good film. Okay, I'm becoming more interested. If it's on YouTube, I'll probably give it a shot. Wade Wilson says, Robert Englund is in a lot of great cheesy horror movies. He was also in Galaxy of Terror, which I own on Laserdisc. He was great in that movie, and it was a year later or two before he was Freddy. Yeah, I'm a fan of Galaxy of Terror. I've got it's like a Shout Factory DVD of it, which is a good DVD, and that's fun. That's got that woman from the blonde woman with the enhanced tits that is in New Year's Evil. You actually get to see the fake enhanced tits in that movie. Summerhill Cinema says, I think he was in that Game of Thrones show. Oh, see, I mean, I don't know anything about that. But thank you for the info. Yeah, the name looks familiar, but C-Snap says Stan Winston effects story by Alan Dean Foster of Alien. Are we talking about which movie now? The Dead and Buried still, or Galaxy of Terror? And what's so funny is didn't James Cameron do like production design on Galaxy of Terror, and he made the worms. He put electric current through the whatchamacallits. What are they called? I don't know what they're called. Those wormy creatures to make them wiggle and writhe in pain on the ground. C-Snap says trying to push Dead and Buried. Okay, that's understandable. Will Powell says, I watched E.T., the extraterrestrials, the other day. That sounds like you must have accidentally put the S in there. It sounds like the sequel the other day. Some people call it overrated because it's so popular, but I have to say After not seeing it for about 7 years, I think it's a masterpiece. Yeah, they played that last year too at the drive-in, but I think there was a scheduling conflict. Like we couldn't go see it. That would have been so cool to see at the drive-in. Incidentally, I saw it at the drive-in, and in 1982, I was a little kid. My dad and mom and my dad's brother and I went to see it. And I was in the back. It was like a station wagon, and the movie scared me. I didn't watch much of it. I probably went to bed not long after the movie started. But I was at the drive-in theater for E.T. in 1982 when it originally came out. But yeah, that's a great movie. And I mean, I don't love everything about it, but the music is just beyond classic. And back when Spielberg was something more special. Wade Wilson says, I think Robert Englund is an underrated actor, and it's kind of sad he got typecast in horror movies. I think he would have probably been great in non-horror roles. Exactly. That happens to so many people, whether they're filmmakers or actors or actresses or film music writers or whatever. They get typecast and stuck in certain genres, and that's a bummer. Have any of you seen Dance Macabre? I think it's like a late 80s, early 90s, 21st century films movie that's got Robert Englund, who like plays I don't know, I can't even remember. He plays like a woman or something in that movie. It's just weird. But yeah, Dance Macabre. I wonder how many people know about that. That movie comes to mind. Wade Wilson says, and some of the cheesy movies he did later in the 2000s, his acting wasn't the greatest, but that's probably due to shoddy scripts. Yeah, and just crappy scripts, crappy productions, and, you know, filmmakers that don't care or have any talent or whatever. Yeah, you can't always blame the actor. Will Powell says, the dog didn't want to go far, and he likes to come home and watch TV on the sofa. So does he, I'm assuming he doesn't watch TV, just sits on the sofa, or does he actually watch TV? C-Snap says Robert Englund pushed Mark Hamill to go to Star Wars audition. They were flatmates in the 70s. Well, that's cool. I can only assume everyone's seen Robert Englund in Eaten Alive from the 70s. Tobe Hooper movie from the 70s. Like, I can't remember if it's 75 or 6. It's a movie that I have mixed feelings about. Oh, man. Eaten Alive. C-Snap says, yeah, cool. Wade Wilson says, yes, he was the pervy character, but I forgot the movie. He was Robert Englund in Eaten Alive was Buck. I'm raring the fuck. And it was also that chick who would also be in Drive-In Massacre and the first two, or the first two, whatchamacallit, Hills Have Eyes movies was also in that movie. She was like the TNA in Eaten Alive. C-Snap says Eaten Alive was okay. Yeah, I know. There's things I love about it, but I think as a whole, it's kind of crap. And it's got so much of that guy just sitting around listening to the radio, mumbling to himself. Talk about filler. Ain't got no, I don't know what he sings to himself. Ain't got no something. I don't know. He sings this song to himself. C-Snap says favorite Tobe Hooper to me was Chainsaw Massacre and also Salem's Lot. Huge fan of Salem's Lot. Yeah, I gotta admit, I don't think I've ever seen Salem's Lot, but I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is easily Tobe Hooper's best movie, and actually one of the best American horror movies. Period. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is something that's just beyond classic. C-Snap's amazed. I haven't seen Salem's Lot. I know I can't see everything. I think he's really disappointed in me. Nate, I'm sure he meant to say, come on, man. He said, coke on, man. I don't sniff cocaine. There we go. He said, come on. Come on, man. I know. I'm a bad, huge movie fanatic. I'm not living up to my name. C-Snap is crying with laughter. Okay, so it sounds like Dead and Buried and Salem's Lot have to be added to my watch list. Yeah, I don't know what to think about a new Toxic Avenger movie. I guess it depends on how mainstream it is or whatever. It seems, I'm not big on, pardon me, I guess remakes very much in general. Did you guys see about that on blue-ray.com? There's a trailer and a release date for like a Wrong Turn remake or something. I'm like, oh my God. I'm so old. They're remaking movies from 2003. It's like, what the fuck? But I mean, Christ, that movie's almost 20 years 20 years old. Oh, Jesus. C-Snap said Salem's Lot scared me so bad as an 8-year-old. Yeah, I can only imagine. Talk about an impressionable age. Summer Hill Cinema says Salem's Lot is a horror masterpiece, extremely creepy and atmospheric. Great soundtrack, too. The Blu-ray is available for pretty cheap. Okay, well, I think I've just added Salem's Lot to my list of movies to check out and Dead and Buried today. CSAP says not that Rob Lowe remake. Awful. Yeah, I wouldn't be interested in that. CSNAP agrees with Summer Hill Cinema. He says you nailed it. Wade Wilson says my favorite Toby Hooper movie is Funhouse. Yeah, that's a movie I like a lot too. A friend of mine in the 90s was a big fan of that, and I wasn't so much, but that movie really grew on me. I'm pretty sure I've reviewed that. I don't think I've reviewed. I got the Blu-ray since. I don't know if I've reviewed the Blu-ray. Maybe I should do that this year if I can remember. I mean, I can't guarantee I'm going to remember all this stuff, but Funhouse is great too, and the music is so great. What's great about Funhouse is it's got this kind of a big budget feel to it for being a relatively simple movie and idea. I think Universal was hoping that movie would be, much more of a hit than, I don't know. I can't imagine it wasn't a very big hit. Will Powell says, referring to the dog, yeah, he just sits on the sofa, lazy dog. That's okay. You can't blame him. That's pretty much what I do too. C-Snap says, love Funhouse. Yep. And then whatever the hell her name is, you get to see her in the shower. That was fun. Yeah, Funhouse is just really great. And the fact that I think it was stereo when it came out in the theater, and that was like for the early 80s, that you can tell that Universal, put some money into it and was probably hoping it would be, more of a success than, like I say, I can't imagine it was that big of a success. Okay, so Dr. Caligari, DAV Caligari says Salem's Lot is on BitChute. Well, I'm going to have to take note of that. Will Powell, thank you very much for letting us know about that. Will Powell says, have you seen Cujo? I liked it very much. Okay, here's my thing with that movie. I don't like dogs. And, so that's pretty much in real life, so, or at least, I don't know. I don't like, oops, I don't want to insult you. You just got back from walking your dog, but I don't like dogs, especially loud, scary, drooly dogs. So I actually did get the Blu-ray years ago of Cujo because I never owned it. And I can't remember. All I can remember is the dog slobber on the car or whatever. I don't like dogs, so I don't really like Cujo, I'm afraid. But it's cool it seems to me like that one woman from the 80s is in it who was always in movies. Can't remember her name right now, but she was in The Howling, and I'm afraid I don't like it because I don't like big, scary, drooly dogs. Wade Wilson says that chick is hot. I love the shower scene, and it was a bit weird. Her brother seen her tits. Yeah, that was the one thing that was kind of creepy, but the first thing I seen that chick in it was Amadeus when I was a kid in the 80s, and it was fun to be able to, because obviously when you see Amadeus, you want to see more, and it was fun to be able to see more in the Funhouse. I want to say her name is Elizabeth Berridge or something like that. C-Snap says Cujo was huge at the time, but dated now. Mom from E.T. Dee Wallace was good on it. Yeah, she may have been. I don't know if she was Dee Wallace Stone at the time. But yeah, same woman. Yeah. Will Powell says Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974 is another horror masterpiece, or is another masterpiece. Never quite had an experience like it before and after. Was like I was watching a nightmare. Okay, screen, but the best kind of way. And then he has says on with an asterisk. I don't even know where the on was supposed to go. It doesn't matter. I don't know. I don't know if Will Powell, if you were here when someone brought up Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but yeah, seems like I just said it. You must have been here. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre 74 is, like I say, just one of the best American horror movies. Period. Because of it's because of its grisliness, you know. I mean, you don't really see anything, but it's like you don't have to. It's the grisliness is just, you know, as much as we all love movies like Halloween and stuff like that. I mean, you can't compare to the grisliness of Chainsaw Massacre and that, you know, that loud chainsaw. And oh my God, that was one of the first horror movies I saw as a kid off TV, and you know, great movie. CSNAP says Zoltan, Hound of Dracula was good. Has Mr. Barlow, Reggie Nalder from Salem. I can only imagine the SL means Salem's Lot. Wade Wilson, am I the only normal person that has never seen their sister's tits? Yeah, I can't say. I don't have any siblings. I mean, I can understand, you know, seeing things on accident, but obviously that kid in Funhouse, that wasn't an accident to pull a prank on your sister when she's in the shower. But I mean, a kid that young is probably not even going to necessarily think anything about tits necessarily. Wade Wilson does a winky face. C-Snap says Chainsaw goes without saying. It's amazing. Yeah, one of my problems with Chainsaw is like the most recently, like ever since like the first DVD release of it, like they've always fucked up the sound in one way or another. Like it doesn't exist on Blu-ray without the sound fucked up one way or another. I talk about it in my review of the most recently released Blu-ray, where it's like I think the only time that the sound wasn't fucked up was like the original DVDs that were released by Pioneer, you know. And they, you know, it's the stereo surround soundtrack that they made in the mid 80s when Elite Entertainment put it out for first time on Laserdisc. But that was the last time the sound was ever not effed up in some way. So it'd be nice if they could do a Blu-ray release without the effed up sound. And I guess I haven't seen it for a long time, but it's just only in a few spots. I talk about it in my review of the most recently released Blu-ray they did. Wade Wilson says, so weird how in movies the brothers are always seeing their sister's boobs because a similar scene happens in Night of the Demons. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's funny, yeah. I don't know. It's just something they put in horror movies, I guess. That blonde, though, in Night of the Demons, that one you're referring to, man, she's a perfect ditzy, hot blonde. Jeez. And doesn't that kid even have some nasty line like "great boobs, sis" or something like that? Just like, yeah, that's a little. Oh my God. C-Snap says Phantasm and Phantasm 2. Any fans? I love both, and the rest had a few moments, but the first two are great. Awesome soundtracks for a horror movie. Yeah, back in 1990, that's when they only had parts 1 and 2. I want to say I rented them at a mom and pop video store like at the same time, and I was instantly fell in love. It was so cool to see 1 and 2 back to back. And incidentally, I actually in 1988, me and my dad must have went to the drive-in to see something else, but Phantasm 2 was the second movie, and I actually went to sleep, I think, after the first movie. And my dad watched some of Phantasm 2, and at the time he wasn't impressed with it because he didn't know anything about Phantasm 1 or whatever. But I was actually at the drive-in and saw the first few minutes of Phantasm 2 at the drive-in in 1988. But that was before I got into horror movies, and I was still kind of squeamish. But God, I wish I'd just seen and watched Phantasm 2 more. But obviously, I hadn't seen the first one, so it would have been kind of weird. But I love Phantasm 1 and 2, and yeah, for me, they just get just worse and worse. 3 is is doable, but like after that, you can pretty much forget about it, in my opinion. Gary Page says the Funhouse was put out with My Bloody Valentine in UK cinemas. Are you talking about back in the day or just recently? Looks like Wade Wilson's correcting a typing issue he may have made and meant see-through versus, I don't even, yeah, okay. We get the idea. C-Snap says Phantasm 2 is a great sequel. Yeah, and back to the music. How cool is the music in those first two movies? And of course, they use the same kind of theme in the other ones, but I mean, yeah, the music is beyond classic. Gary Page says 1981, so they must have released Funhouse like a double bill with My Bloody Valentine in UK cinemas. That's a cool fun fact. That's a couple of two fun movies to double bill together. But I've actually got, I should probably do a showcasing of it. I had someone ask me, I think, in comments, but I've actually got the Phantasm special edition, like limited edition Laserdisc thing that came out. I want to say it was 98 or something. It's like signed by Coscarelli and Angus Scrimm. It's kind of scary because like I think one of the markers one of them used is crap because one of them's signature is kind of fading, but that was a big deal when that came out because it was the first like actual like new transfer of the movie since the original tape, and it was just a big deal. They did stereo surround on the soundtrack, and also had original mono included. Obviously, it had the first commentary with the guys, and that was a big deal, that release, and that's a cool keepsake to own. I should do it. It also included a 24 karat gold CD of the soundtrack. Or I don't know about the. I mean, it's a gold colored CD. I mean, I think it says 24. I think I showcased pictures of it and talk about it in my review of Phantasm that I did years and years ago. But I should do a more in-depth review of the Laserdisc. But yeah, that was a. Wonder what that goes for on eBay. Probably nothing. That was a big time cool release. Will Powell says I watched Tourist Trap, which was pretty good. Had that similar atmosphere in places to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Obviously not in the same league. I agree with that. It's got the same feeling. And interestingly enough, the guy who did the production design for Texas Chainsaw Massacre did it for Tourist Trap as well. If you compare the masks that the guy wears to Leatherface mask, it's very similar. I think I mentioned that in my review that I got to do a more elaborate, longer review of Tourist Trap maybe this year if I can remember. But that could be one of the big reasons that it feels the same as Chainsaw is because the same guy did the production design on both movies. But Tourist Trap is so great, and it's got just such a great soundtrack. Wade Wilson says, I've seen Phantasm 2 before Phantasm 1, so basically I don't know if they tried to say basically might enjoy Phantasm 2 more than the first one. Also, I share the same birthday with Angus Scrimm, RIP, also not the biggest Phantasm fan. Okay. Wade Wilson, I probably should give it more of a chance. Well, see, I can understand seeing 2 before 1 and then and 1 seeming more low budget after seeing the second one first. But yeah, I seen them back to back. So I saw the first one first and second one second, like probably one after another because I rented both of them for the sound for the first time, renting them both tapes at the same time. I mean, we don't all have to like the same thing. If you don't like the first one, if you don't like Phantasm, you don't like Phantasm, That's cool. I mean, there's things I don't like Cujo, and things I do like Last Jedi, that people don't like. So, I mean, whatever. C-Snap says there's an Oliver Reed movie called Burnt Offerings. That was filmed in the same house as the Phantasm Mortuary. Burnt Offerings is a great little horror. Karen Black is in it. Atmospheric. Yeah, I saw that on Amazon Prime, I think, years ago because I was thinking about getting the Blu-ray, and I guess I didn't like it enough to get the Blu-ray. But I want to say, isn't I can't remember her name right now, but the actress from the old movies, she's in it too, I think. Um, I'm not going to say it's bad, but I guess it didn't do a whole hell of a lot for me. But definitely had a cool vibe. I can't remember if that's late 70s or early 80s. I wish I could remember the actress from the old movies, Betty Davis. There you go. Snap. Thank you. Oh yeah, I've seen it. Just didn't blow my ass off, I guess. But that's okay. 1980. That's an example of we all can't like the same things. Wade Wilson says, back to Funhouse, I must say that it's a strange movie in the sense it's one of those movies that get better with repeated watchings of it. I think when I first seen it, I wasn't big into it. Grew on me. Yeah, the same thing happened with me in the 90s. A friend of mine was a big fan of it, and he put it on, and it's just like this guy at the fun house with the mask on who drools out of it and pays for a prostitute, and it's just like, yeah, it didn't do much for me in the 90s. But then I'm pretty sure Universal put out that DVD of it, which was pretty good, and then I'm like, yeah, I was just like, well, see, the thing for me is like the further away we get away from the yesteryear and the days of old in the late 70s and early 80s, the more I long for that era. So it's kind of like, oh, wow, this is cool. Like, I don't know. It's just like it gets cooler every year because it represents that era. And it's just like, oh, cool. But I agree. I mean, for me, it did the same thing where I wasn't crazy about it when I first saw it. But now it's just like, and I love how cool the opening credits with just the music and the shots of in the shadow, in the dark shots of these kind of old archaic funhouse fair like things, and the fat laughing woman, and the guy. It's just all the little knickknacks. Great music too. C-Snap says the freaking Funhouse is a creepy character, especially in that Frankenstein mask. I know that was. I almost wish the mask never came off, to be honest, because it would have been almost more scary to never know what it looked like underneath, but or at least don't have so much light on it when the mask came off. But yeah, seeing him like drool out of the mask was like really creepy. And it's like, yeah, that because the mask was on him until from a lot of the movie, and it was like I almost think it would have been better if he never got to see under the mask, because it would have been like this huge mystery. Summer Hill Cinema 700 says, signing out. Have a great day, everyone. Everybody, great live stream, Nate. Thanks for stopping by yet again. Have a good day and a good week. Summer Hill Cinema 700. Will Powell says, didn't know that it was the same production designer. That makes sense now. Very macabre atmosphere to it. Yeah. Yep. And that's one thing I think I mentioned in my short video of it I did years ago, is that the masks that are worn by the killer in Tourist Trap look very similar to the mask, or Leatherface mask, in the first Texas Chainsaw movie. C-Snap says, later, Summer Hill. And for everyone that doesn't know, feel free to check out Summer Hill Cinema 700's channel. He does, movie reviews of these kind of movies we like, and other movies like Westerns and stuff, and all the stuff he likes and stuff. So he's definitely I think he just celebrated his 5th anniversary of his channel, and just doing what we love to do here on this community and talk about, movies we love and Blu-ray releases of movies we love. So feel free, anyone, to go over and give his channel some love as well. C-Snap says there's a great making of Funhouse on YouTube. I wonder, that's cool to know. I wonder if it's like from the Blu-ray or something, or if it's something different. Gary Page says, I had Funhouse on Laserdisc. That's cool. Now, is that like an old one from the 80s? Because is it like pan and scan, or is it like a newer widescreen version? C-Snap says, agree, should have kept the mask on. Yeah, that would have just been even more scary. But of course, the producer or something probably wanted that horrific moment of seeing the mask come off. But to me, I just think, like talking about it right now, it would have been like, oh my God, what the hell Like if it had never come off, we would just be so inquisitive right now talking about it. It's like we would be saying like, it's just so cool the mask never came off. I wonder what was under there. Well, sometimes it's, you know, funner to not know than have everything revealed, you know? It's like Leatherface, like the first movie, you know, it's not like his mask we ever see under his mask, you know? Wade Wilson says, I want to pick up Funhouse on Laserdisc, especially since it's one of the cheaper Laserdiscs. Such a fantastic movie, but I'm broke at the moment. So are you talking about like you want to pick up one of the older ones from the 80s? Or I don't know if they ever would have. I could only assume they would have put out like in the 90s a widescreen version of Funhouse. But I don't know much about that movie on Laserdisc. C-Snap says, I think it's off the Blu-ray and the making of. Okay. So I probably, since I've got the Scream Factory Blu-ray of it, I can probably watch that. But for anyone who doesn't have that, thank you very much for mentioning that it's on YouTube. Wade Wilson says they have a widescreen available and it's affordable. Okay, yeah, because I can only assume that they released a Laserdisc, a pan and scan in the 80s, and then maybe a widescreen in the 90s. For me, I really like the original releases from the 80s, because it's like the original film to tape transfers, and it's just really fun to see how horrible they are. But it's also very, as I've mentioned in my showcasings of Laserdiscs, something about it that's very, I don't know what word I used, but fun to watch those first film to tape transfers. Gary Page says widescreen NTSC Funhouse Laserdisc look great. C-Snap says they also released the soundtrack on vinyl. Personally, I'm not the biggest vinyl fan myself. I just as soon have things released on CD, but that's cool. I know that there's a lot of vinyl fans and collectors and stuff, and I do appreciate it when they put like the vinyl rips on YouTube and stuff. But I think I mentioned last week when Tourist Trap came up that, pardon me, oh my God, that I've got the original on eBay years ago, vinyl soundtrack of Tourist Trap, which was really fun. Obviously, I put on CD, you know, after I got it, but that's really fun. I should probably showcase that at some point if I can remember. Will Powell says, just putting this out there, I freaking love Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. I know it's flawed, but I don't care. I love it. I just had someone else comment recently, I can't remember who it was, who on a video of mine that doesn't like it. And they just recently seen, I don't know if they're here now, they just recently saw Jason Goes to Hell, and they kind of compared that to Halloween 3. And you know, they kind of like Jason Goes to Hell for what it was, but they can't make themselves like Halloween 3 as much as they want to. And it's like, it's kind of a bummer, because obviously, I mean, boils down to everyone's opinion, but I'm much more in the liking Halloween 3 camp and not so much Jason Goes to Hell camp. I mean, we all hated Halloween 3 in the 80s when it came out, and it wasn't Michael, or I guess I can't speak for us. Well, shit, I wasn't even watching this stuff when it came out, but you know, I think a lot of us didn't like it when we first became aware of it, because it wasn't Michael. But I mean, it's definitely a movie, just like with Friday the 13th: New Beginning, that has been forgiven over the years. And yeah, Season of the Witch is just, you know, it's just like, for me, the first 3 Halloween movies are just the best. And I definitely agree with Halloween 3. Just watched it last year, and that is just so fun. Well, I don't even know if it's how flawed it really is. I mean, what do you what flaws do you think it has, other than this young hot ass chick just going off with this guy and screwing him? C-Snap says, I think The Fog is one of the greatest soundtracks. Yeah, I think he did a good job with the soundtrack of that movie too. You know, the early years of John Carpenter soundtracks are so much fun. CSAP says, haha, Halloween 3 is great, and he puts a bunch of pumpkins on there for us. Thank you very much for the pumpkins. Gary Page says, it's weird seeing the jack-o'-lantern pumpkins in January, but that's okay. Makes me think of warmer weather. Gary Page says, Laserdisc never caught on in the UK. It was expensive, and most of the best films came from America. I can remember, I want to say you may have said that before, either that or I just had deja vu, but interesting little tidbit there from Gary Page. Thank you. Wade Wilson says, oh yeah, I'm being reimbursed money for the Laserdisc, or for the Laserdisc, rot Laserdisc. I'll be able to afford Funhouse Laserdisc when the money is refunded. I know what I'll be picking up. He claps. So I don't remember if you mentioned it, but you're looking to get the widescreen Laserdisc, I think, maybe? Oh, okay, yeah, you said widescreen and it's affordable. Okay. Yeah, there were a couple of Friday the 13th Part 7 posters on eBay that I was watching, and I just saw today that one of them sold out, and then just today I saw that the other one sold out. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know. Do I need the poster? I don't know. I don't need the poster, but I want the poster. Wade Wilson says they only have a widescreen of it, I think. I can only assume that, they would have put out a Laserdisc of it in the 80s, which may have been the pan and scan version, but I'm not sure. That would be my assumption, is that, the first Laserdisc they would have put out of it possibly in the 80s wouldn't have been widescreen, because like with Jaws and stuff, they were just putting out the pan and scan versions on Laserdisc. I don't think it was really until the 90s or the late 80s they were starting to do widescreen Laserdisc, but I could be wrong. C-Snap says, were you a fan of Twilight Zone, the movie? God, it seems like I saw it when I was younger, and then I may have saw it more recently. I can never remember anything about it, so I guess that kind of answers the question. I guess I'm not isn't that one of those movies that has like 3 stories? See, I'm not a huge fan of movies that have 3 separate stories. So I guess the short answer to that question is since I can't remember much about it, I'm not the biggest Twilight Zone, the movie fan, I'm afraid. Wade Wilson says, I can only assume I don't know what this is. This LD, I don't know. Anyway, you're saying I don't see a listing pan and scan, so maybe there never was a pan and scan Laserdisc of Funhouse. C-Snap says, yes, segments. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of those movies with like 3 different stories personally. So I guess I don't love Twilight Zone, the movie. Oh, okay. Wade Wilson says, must be Laserdisc database. LDDB is a website for Laserdisc. Well, that's really strange. You think that Universal would have put out, like in the 80s, a pan and scan Laserdisc of Funhouse, unless it was such a flop that they didn't put it out. So I wonder what year the widescreen one is from. Why don't I refill my water 1 sec? C-Snap says, how about the Count Yoga movies? I love them. Very underrated cult classics. Yeah, I can honestly say I don't know if I've ever heard of the Count Yoga movies. C-Snap says, IMDb. Well, I can only assume Wade Wilson is correct in his LDDB, unless he's meaning IMDb. Oh yeah, okay. So CSNAP says, "Oh, sorry, Wade." So, because LDDB could be Laserdisc database. Wade Wilson says, "I think it was a flop, and that's why it was only got a widescreen release on Laserdisc. It's one of those movies that grow on people." Well, I'm just curious to know when the widescreen Laserdisc came out. If it was the 80s, that would have been really impressive, unless it never came out on Laserdisc until the 90s. CSNAP thought it was a typo. He says, "Sorry, Yorga." I don't know what that means. Count Yorga with Robert Query. I don't know if he's in more than one chat. I don't know what the hell that means. Wade Wilson, yeah, LDDB is the Laserdisc database, which I can only assume stands for Laserdisc database. Just a guess. Wade Wilson says release date for Funhouse Laserdisc is 1992. Okay, yeah. See, that's when they started doing widescreen, or sometime around there. Yeah, they probably just put out a tape in the 80s and left it at that for Funhouse, because they figured no one's going to want to buy the Laserdisc. Will Powell says it's just a little goofy in places, which adds to the fun. Kind of looks like TV episode when they get inside the Silver Shamrock factory. That being said, I still love it. Yeah, I mean, horror movies in the 80s were goofy though. So, but the fun part is just the chick having sex with the guy, which is funny. And that's we're talking about Funhouse and not wanting that movie being better if the mask didn't come off. I kind of think it's the opposite with that chick in Halloween 3. It would have been better if we could have seen everything. Yeah, I think the goofy that Halloween 3 is just the perfect amount of goofy. It's so funny that the guy's at the bar during the day, and the girl's like, "Yeah, one of the nurses said I could find you here." Like, everyone knows he's a drunk with a divorced drunk with a cranky wife. Oh my God! Now that movie is just replaying in my head. Did my father say anything to you? Yeah, he said, "Tell Ellie I love her." You're a good liar, but thanks anyway. Oh my God. CSNAP says Count Yorga was a 70s vampire movie. There were 2 movies done. Great stuff. Okay. I don't doubt it. They're going to kill us. All of us. CSNAP says, ha 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 ha. Approaching 2 hours here of Huge Movie Fanatics Radio. Last broadcast for January of 2021. Next time we'll be broadcasting, it'll be February. Oh, it'd be nice to leave January behind. CSNAP says Halloween 3 has a massive following now. Yeah, and it's further evidence with that NECA figure collection that sold out and is now being, sold on eBay rather for ridiculous prices, I'm hearing. But yeah, Halloween 3 is one of those rare occasions where I can only assume, pardon me, that it wasn't well received in the 80s, because when you do 2 movies with Michael and then you're calling this movie the third one and it's something different, you think there would have been a little backlash, but time has been kind to Halloween 3. DAV Caligari asks, you watch any horror on Tubi TV? No, I want to say that Summerhill Cinema 700 has mentioned that he saw movies on Tubi TV. That should be something I should try, possibly, to see. I can't remember. Someone said, I think Salem's Lot was on some BitChute possibly earlier or something like that. No, I can't say I've been to Tubi TV, but I think Summerhill Cinema 700 has watch stuff on there. So what I'll probably do, sometime before next week's show is try to see for free Dead and Buried, one of the titles, and online, see for free online, Dead and Buried and Salem's Lot. Because, those have me curious, interested. C-Snap says, yes, let us know what you think. Well, I'll be sure to do so. Hopefully I can find them online for absolutely free. And if I see one or both of them, I'll be sure to mention it or talk about it next week on the radio show. Gary Page asks, anyone like Mother's Day 1980? So the buddy of mine who liked the Funhouse in the 90s also liked Mother's Day 1980, and that was a movie that I didn't love. And I gotta tell you, I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember I'm grossed out by things like with gooey slop and stuff coming out of people's mouths. So that one scene where I can just remember some guy's eating stuff, and he puts like a TV or something on his head, and you can see all the slop from his mouth getting on the inside of the TV, and it's just nasty. Like, that's the only scene I can really remember from that movie. I'd be willing to give it, I haven't seen it in the longest time, I'd be willing to give it another chance. I can't remember if I have it on anything, if I've got a tape. I don't think I have a DVD, but I don't think I've got it on anything, though. But, I mean, I think there's things about it that are cool, but I guess I can't remember enough of it to really even comment on it. So what I've said about it is all I can remember about it, just the nasty, just, whatever the hell's going on in that scene with the guy. It seems like he's spraying like just something into his mouth, like whipped cream or something. And it's just all over everywhere, and it's nasty. Oh my God. C-Snap asks, how about Basket Case? Basket Case for me is an absolute, I just love Basket Case. I saw it for the first time actually 30 years ago come this spring. And I think Basket Case is amazing. And it's too bad. I reviewed that Arrow Video Blu-ray release. While I like the special features on the Arrow Video Blu-ray release of Basket Case, I think the first image first image Blu-ray that came out has a better. I like the image on that more because, as I said in my review of the Arrow Video Blu-ray of Basket Case, I think it's too bright. Of course, you can always just turn your brightness down on your TV, but Basket Case, yeah, I get a high five from C-Snap. Basket Case, if you haven't, I can only assume you haven't watched my review of the Basket Case movies. Yeah, definitely feel free to do so. I just, I love the original Basket Case. Not so much the sequels. I've reviewed all three of them. But Basket Case is really, really amazing. And just a perfect example of low-budget movies that, are just have such a low budget, but there's so much of a great idea behind it. And it doesn't matter how low of a budget you got if you've got like talent and a great idea. And it doesn't matter that Belial looks like a little fake foam thing to me. It's just done so well. And yeah, so I've definitely, feel free to at some point check out my review for the movie if you want to know, I guess, more of what I think about Basket Case. But that is just beyond classic. Gary Page says, yes, a classic. C-Snap says, what's in the basket? My brother. Yeah. That would be, like, I wouldn't want them to remake Basket Case by any means, but that would be a cool tagline. What's in the basket? CSAP says, I'll check out the review. Thank you very much. He also says, yeah, first one is the best. The other two were bad. Exactly. It's really a bummer. And it was kind of, to be honest, it was kind of a bummer when that Arrow Video Blu-ray came out. And it was almost like, you know, the interviews with the, was it Frank Henenlotter or whoever the hell made the movie? It was kind of disappointing how, you know, he almost treated the movie as a joke. And here I thought, you know, the movie for me plays like the first movie where he's, that scene where he's talking about the history with his brother and the sad stuff with his aunt or whatever who took care of them and died and all that stuff. I mean, it was done in a way that was really serious, and it actually brings a tear to your eye. And I was kind of bummed out by seeing like the interview with the director. It was just like, to him, it was kind of the whole movie was like a joke. And I was just like, God, I could have done without, it was, he said something to that extent. I could have done without hearing that, but it doesn't affect the way I see the movie. But yeah, I thought that the first movie is just done so well, and a perfect example of just low budget, you know, genius. You know, it's like 16 millimeter, I think, but it was really just in the music, you know, the music and the kill stuff, and you know, Belial's such a badass, and like the stop motion and stuff. I mean, it adds. I mean, yes, it's bad or whatever technically, but I mean, it's just got a charm to it. You know, Belial just stop motioning around the hotel room floor. Yeah, and it's a bummer what happened to the second movies. It's funny because, you know, I've got, you know, recent reviews of me doing the individual basket case movies, but there's also a video on the channel from that me and this guy and me and this buddy of mine who was the one who really liked Funhouse and really liked Mother's Day 1980, where we're doing movie reviews and we talk about basket case movies and Friday the 13th and Maniac Cops and stuff, and that was shot in 1993, right around this time of year. So that video is also up. So Teenage Nate talking about these movies, and it's funny because at that time, you know, we reviewed all of the Friday the 13th, all 8 of them. I mean, there was only 8 of them until, you know, like August of that year when the abysmal Jason Goes to Hell would come out. But that's like, I think, in like an hour-long video. And I also got the normal movie by movie, individual movie reviews on here as well. CSAP says it's the whole grittiness of the Times Square, New York. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things about it, just captures that reality. And to be honest, I was surprised, you know, watching the behind the scenes and stuff for the Arrow Video Blu-ray that, you know, that the interior hotel room stuff was like a, you know, a studio. I mean, like built for the movie. And it's just like, God, I didn't know that. I mean, it looks just like a shady, seedy hotel room. The one thing I did know is that there was, I don't know, some shot in the where you look out the window and you could tell it's a backdrop versus reality. But I didn't know the whole, like, the rooms and stuff of the inside the Hotel Broslin was like a studio set or something that they built in some office building. I can't remember all the particulars, but I was surprised for how low budget that movie was, that you know, they built sets for it. I'm like, okay, I see. Gary Page says Maniac Cop was really good. Yeah, I've reviewed those 3 Maniac Cop movies as well, and then the Blu-rays of 2 and 3. I don't have the Blu-ray of the first one because they put out a pretty good DVD of it at some point before I had a Blu-ray player. Before, I think, well, regardless, before I had a Blu-ray player. So yeah, just like, it's funny how Basket Case and Maniac Cop are kind of the same in regards to the first one. Of course, well, the second Maniac Cop is pretty good too. But yeah, the first Maniac Cop, the first 2 Maniac Cops are pretty good. And then the third one for me is not so good. I mean, that's just like, if you look at the making of or the whatever of part 3, there's so many just production problems with Maniac Cop 3. It was a bummer. But the first 2 Maniac Cops are really good. And I think I first saw some of Maniac Cop on TV back in the early 90s or something. And that's got a great music by, what the hell's his name? I can't remember his name right now, but he'd do he'd go on to do like Missing in Action. You know, the Maniac Cop theme is kind of cool. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Ah, shit, I'm butchering it. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, Maniac Cop's like a horror action franchise. Interesting franchise. But Maniac Cop 2, yeah, the more I think about 2, that's really cool too. It's kind of weird in a way. I don't really like how Maniac Cop 2 ends with, them. I even mentioned this in my review. I think of like when the reviews we did from '93. I just don't like how the Maniac Cop 2 ends, where it's like they go to break the guys out of the prison only to change his mind or whatever the hell happens with that. But, and then the weird thing about Maniac Cop 2, though, is like killing the characters off. It's almost like Nightmare on Elm Street 4, killing the characters from the previous movie off in the first part of it to reintroduce new characters. Like that aspect, I didn't really think about much of it very much when I was a teenager, but having seen it again when I got the Blu-ray, I was like, God, I don't know how I feel about that. It's just weird. C-Snap says, Nate, gotta go, been fun. See you all next week. Signing off. Well, he didn't say signing off. He says, Joe. All right. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining and participating. I don't know. At this point, let's see here. It's getting the chat's getting kind of slow. We're like 2 hours and 13 minutes into the stream. I guess, I don't know. It's slowing down. I'd say if nothing else at this point, probably stop at 2.5 hours, I would imagine. As this is, for me, the show is definitely a chat-driven show where it's more like responding and interacting with the chat and what the things you guys bring up and stuff. Like, I can't just sit here and really keep blabbing necessarily, and I'm not really that kind of a person. So if the chat gets dead, I probably won't last much longer on here myself. Dav Caligari says, I don't know how to pronounce that, DAV. We'll just call you Caligari. Asks, you see the movie Clown? No. Just like with dogs, I don't like clowns, so I don't really like movies with dogs as the main characters or clowns as the main characters. So I'm afraid I have not seen the movie Clown. So Dave, okay, Dave Caligari. Yeah, not a big clown fan. Gary Page says Jeepers Creepers. Yeah, that movie has been actually, I think the first two have been reviewed on this channel, and the reviews can be found on this channel of those movies. Those movies are pretty cool. I've actually got the third one. I got it for like $3 on DVD, and I never watched it yet. From what I hear, the third one isn't on par with the first two. It's probably a lower budget or whatever. But yeah, I've been meaning to watch the third one, but like I say, I hear tell it's not as good. So it's not very, doesn't really make me want to pick it up and watch it. Wade Wilson says, I have only seen Clown House and Jeepers Creepers. once, or for Jeepers Creepers maybe twice. I refuse to watch that movie because Victor Salva is evil. Well, teach your own. Gary Page says, yeah, it's bad. I don't know what he's referring to. Oh, Gary Page doesn't like Jeepers Creepers either? I think the first two are kind of fun. The reviews exist on the channel back when I reviewed with someone else. Wade Wilson says, not sure if any of you know that. Yeah, I'm aware of the story of the director and his doings or whatever, but I try not to, you can't know for sure anything unless you know people personally, and like the media is really not very trustworthy, so I don't put much stock in, what the media says about people. So, I mean, there's, right. Wade Wilson says, okay, we don't have to dwell on it. There's a plenty of bad people that do bad stuff that you don't hear anything about. So we won't dwell on it. I'd say at this point, maybe we'll probably, we're about 2 hours and close to 18 minutes in. Maybe we'll think about stopping at 2.5 hours today. Chat's getting a little slow, which is okay. Nothing lasts forever. What do people think about my start time at 1 p.m. Central? Is that too early for people? I kind of feel like I don't really want to change it since I just announced that start time. So if I go changing stuff, it just gets confusing. So I don't know if any of you guys heard, but basically today, the first 16 minutes, there was no interaction in the chat whatsoever. So it just made me think about, maybe I'm starting too early, but I guess I can just talk in circles about nothing for 16 minutes. That's okay. Not a big deal. It'll just be goofy to watch or listen to later on after the fact, the first 16 minutes. Gary Page says True Lies Spanish Blu-ray is called, oh, okay, I can't pronounce that. It's a Spanish title. It is very good quality and has extras. Interesting. And he also said, if you're the same one who mentioned it before, that it's region free, I think. So does that have like burned in English subtitles, or yeah, they turn offable? Like, can you watch the movie with no subtitles? And Gary Page says, yes, region free, turn them off. Huh. Well, that Blu-ray's definitely got me interested. I didn't know it was on Blu-ray at all. Wade Wilson says, do you like any horror anime, or is anime out of the question? Well, I wouldn't say out of the question. I'm just not a huge anime fan. Probably the only anime I've really seen and own is, Akira, the movie. And I don't know I suppose Go Lion technically counts, but not huge in anime. I mean, it's very cool, but I mean, I guess I don't gravitate towards it. Pardon me. That the burps are from me drinking water to keep my palate wet. So I think my goal is going to be to search out, see if I can see online for free Salem's Lot and or Dead and Buried before next Thursday. And if I'm able to see either one of those or both, I can talk about how I felt about them, I guess. Oh, Wade Wilson asks, is it just water or are you drinking carbonated water? No, just normal water does this to me, I guess. I don't like carbonated water. Yeah, you'd think normal water wouldn't do that, but I guess it does. Gary Page says, I guess he's frustrated with my silence. Oh shit, say something about Friday the 13th. Yeah, if I ever need to fill any dead air, all I gotta do is talk about Friday the 13th. Wade Wilson says, I might rewatch Dead and Buried so I can't be ready. Yeah, okay. So I can be ready for it next Thursday. No, that's always an option. Something about Friday the 13th. I love it. I love that franchise. I guess I was mentioning before in regards to Friday the 13th that since I have the first 6 theatrical posters, I've been kind of toying around with getting the 7th theatrical poster on eBay. And, in recent weeks, I've found a couple and bookmarked the pages, and one has sold, and I just found out today that the other one has sold. So I'm like, hopefully more show. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know if I really need to be spending money on posters now or whatever. It's a situation that's like, because like the poster for the 7th movie, since the first 7 are my favorite, it's kind of like, since I have the first 6 posters, it just feels so incomplete, to this OCD guy by the name of Nate. So I guess I should have just probably got one of those posters, but I didn't. Maybe more will show up. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I can live, I've lived this long without the poster of Friday the 13th, Part 7. I can probably keep living without it. It's just one of those situations. As I've said in so many videos past, this time of year, January or February, is kind of when you're just so bored, you just do a lot of, I have been known to do a lot of eBay-ing, if you will. Gary Page says, ha ha ha, but Paramount hates the gift that keeps on giving, that's for sure. Yep, them damn movies, were so ashamed of them raking in money for us. Two hours and 24 minutes in. I think we're going to leave it at 2 hours and 30 minutes today, guys. It's just the chat's gotten dead, and I'm burping up a storm and this and that. But thank you guys once again for showing up this week. Definitely always fun, except for when you ask questions. When I'm asked questions, if I've seen movies and I haven't, I feel like, oh God, I'm going to get it if I say I haven't. Can't see everything after all. I guess in the remaining 5 minutes, anyone see the that extra deleted footage from Friday the 13th Part 2, and what do they think of it? I was excited to see it, and then after I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's no real big deal. I think I talk about it in my review of the Part 2 Blu-ray from the box set, but what does anyone else think in the remaining 5 minutes of the show today? Gary Page says, bye, Nate. Sorry I was late. That's okay. Everyone's got their lives. Everyone's life can't be, built around the huge Movie Fanatics radio. Maybe next week, maybe I won't start right at 1. Maybe, I don't know, I probably will, because that's what my freaking thing says. I guess I can talk to myself for the first 16 minutes. Last week, I think I had a comment within the first minute, so that's why I was surprised about today. I'm like, are people sick of the show already? See, by the time spring comes, people will probably be sick of this anyway, so or stop showing up. So I won't need to. People probably get sick of it before spring. Come to think about it. Yep, that's dead air. In case you're wondering, dead huge movie phonetics radio air. We've got about, let's see here, let me do some math, like 3 minutes left. Gary Page says, I'll be here on time next week, sir. Oh gosh, you don't have to, it's okay. I appreciate that, but it's no big deal. Wade Wilson says, I can't make that promise. That's absolutely fine. Makes me wonder if I should, change to maybe a later start time. I guess we can just go week to week and see what happens. This week would definitely indicate maybe that should be a possibility, but I guess we'll see what happens next week. And like I say, if I got a blab for the first 16 minutes about nothing by myself, then that's how it, that's what'll happen, I guess. I mean, I can't expect people to reschedule their lives around this huge movie phonetics radio. Wade Wilson says, I'm East Coast and you're Central Time? Correct, I'm Central Time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that my 1 p.m. is your 2 p.m. Wade Wilson says, I think I have that correct. I think we got it figured out. All right, we got about a minute left, everyone. Thank you very much for showing up. Dave Caligari says, I have to watch some of these movies. Yeah, they're kind of fun if you so choose. Thank you, everyone, for showing up and participating once again in the chat. It's going to be my mission to see whatchamacallit by next week, either one or both of those movies, as I mentioned, Dead and Buried and Salem's Lot, see if it can happen. If it can, I'll talk about them. If it doesn't, I won't. Wade Wilson says, hasta la vista, baby. Right back at you. Versus the baby, maybe. I don't know. or minus the baby, I should say. But thanks, everyone, for showing up. And I guess that'll pretty much do it for this week's Huge Movie Fanatics Radio. We'll see you next week.